right, PlayStation, I see you. You're actually learning, or you just are really tired of losing money. I mean, I don't blame you because, I mean, with your last two CEOs, they were basically wasting millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, heck, I don't even think it's millions at this point. It's basically billions because you literally bought Bungie for over $3 billion. And yeah, I don't think that's turned a profit for you at all. If you guys know what we're talking about, well, just take a look at the screen right here. Sony Corp shakeup. Hiroki Totoki is named the corporate CEO. Hideki Nishino is elevated to the solo CEO role of Sony Interactive Entertainment, aka PlayStation. Now, if you might have heard last year in 2024, there was actually a duo CEO like partnership essentially. We had Herman Hulst, who was more focused on like the software and the game side of things, and then you had Nishino here, who was more on the hardware side of things, which, by the way, his background is on the hardware side of PlayStation and everything like that. Now, though, not only is Nishino the head CEO, Herman Hulst got bumped back down to where he was before he got that co-sponsorship CEO role. And now you have the no-shit Hiroki Totoki numbers guy here, who he does not take shit at all. He just doesn't. He is a big numbers guy. It doesn't matter about the players. It doesn't matter about anything. If the numbers are not where they're supposed to be, he's coming for your ass. And it is clear, especially after he went back in and he like reevaluated PlayStation and everything. In fact, he pretty much laid into Bungie saying like the developers are good, but like all this extra fluff higher up people, yeah, we need to get the F rid of them essentially. I'm paraphrasing like no tomorrow there. But that is essentially what he was hinting at, especially when you look at the real translations, because there was some translation mix-up at the very beginning. But then when people actually translated it, taking their time, it's like, oh, no. This was not directed at the developers being bad or anything. The developers are doing their job. It is the higher-ups and the management and everything, which is just like out of control. So basically what we have right now is with like the last 2 years, we've had Jim Ryan step down, who has had arguably one of the worst, like, track records when it comes to games and everything coming for PlayStation. Then it was taken over as the co-partnership CEO thing with Nishino and Herman Hulst. Herman Hulst got bumped back down to where he used to be, and now he has to report to Nishino. And on top of all of that, Hiroki got promoted himself to just simply CEO of Sony in general, which you have to keep in mind, Sony is not just simply PlayStation. They are also music. They are cameras. They are entertainment in terms of movies and TV shows. And even over here in Japan, they have a very lucrative like healthcare system that they have going on, or insurance, I should say, technically. Not really healthcare, but the insurance policy stuff that they have over here in Japan. It's actually pretty well known. In fact, I'd have to triple check, but I think my father-in-law has it. Could be wrong on that. But anyway, regardless, like if Sony, got a lot of, areas where they get all their money and everything like that. So it's not surprising if something might slowly start to tank or anything like that when the rest of the company can kind of pick that up. That's not really big news. Bigger news, though, is the fact that the moment Hiroki came in, we also started to see all of PlayStation's like live service endeavors just get canceled one after the other. And basically what we are left with right now in terms of their push for live service stuff, we have Helldivers 2 out right now, which is, to be fair, has done extremely well, sold extremely well for them and everything like that. Everything else from the Spider-Man Online live service game, the Last of Us factions, the Concord, obviously after 2 weeks, it got shut down completely. The God of War live service game that they were working on, which just had everyone rolling their eyes. There was the Days Gone team that was working on a live service game that has now been completely canceled. And the only thing left of that we know of right now is we have this Horizon multiplayer game, which is rumored to be something very similar to Monster Hunter. So that's also rumored to potentially release this year, which that's going to be hard against the actual Monster Hunter game, if they are similar, I should say. Then there's apparently the MMO Horizon game, which was originally rumored to then be canceled, but then now people have come out and said it's actually not canceled. And we'll get into the whole Horizon stuff with Herman Hulst and everything a little bit later. And then as of right now, we have Fair Games or Fairbanks or Fair Games, whatever, $ game, which is that extraction-like shooter. And then finally, we have Bungie's extraction shooter, which I know the Bungie extraction shooter is going to all platforms. It's going to PC, it's going to Xbox, it's going to PlayStation. But because Bungie is now under Sony, that is technically something that they release and everything like that. So it has not been very good for Sony, and especially when you have games right now that take 4 to 5 years to make, and they're basically either getting canceled and just metaphorically and physically throwing your money into the fire is what's going on. And there's a reason that a lot of players feel that this current generation of gaming is just kind of very lackluster, because we're not getting the stuff that we're used to getting. We're just getting all these failed flops at multi-platform live service games that are going nowhere. They're not doing anything for the industry themselves. People are leaving left and right, or people are getting fired for simply making the thing that they are supposed to be making because that's their job. And then it's just like, oh, all these people over here get fired, and then the corporate side of things just continue to stay exactly where they are, making the same bad decisions and everything. And it's just a rinse and repeat scenario here. Now, a lot of that is also, I think, unfortunately, due to all of the hiring and everything that we saw during COVID, and these companies not being able to look forward 3 to 4 years into the future and say, hey, this is not the norm. This is like kind of the exceptional thing because of this unique situation we are in during the pandemic. We should probably scale back a bit or not go too far into this particular area. In reality, though, they just saw money signs and they plowed right through. And then, oh, would you look at that? Now stocks are dipping down for like EA and Ubisoft's a whole big thing right now. Sony is not, obviously dead or anything like that, but their margins are like, I think 4 or 5%, which in the business side of things is not good at all. And especially when you have a guy like here, Hiroki Totoki, coming in, he's going to look at those and he's going to be like, yeah, okay, cracking knuckles and everything. Like he's going to clean house. He's going to do exactly what he needs to do to get the numbers where they need to go. And that can be anything from simply letting people go, no matter where they are within the company itself, be it low, floor developers or any kind of other high manager positions. He's also going to be doing things like, hey, that PlayStation 5 that you sold, yeah, let's separate the stand from it. Let's sell the stand separately. Oh, that disk drive, yeah, that's another $80 right there. We can do that right there. So whether or not he is directly the one telling them to do that, somewhere within that area, especially if he has his team working with him, most likely to some degree, that could potentially be something right there that you might see. So, and again, he is well known for just being the numbers guy. That's just where it is. And again, and going back to the live service push of everything, we already know that not only have they canceled all this stuff, but it's just like everyone under these guys now, they are under a microscope. And getting over to Herman Hulst, who, I think back when he was working at Guerrilla was probably looked at pretty favorably. But then over the last couple of years where he's been promoted to the pretty high position in terms of what games get okayed and everything, which, by the way, keep in mind right now, even if he okays something, he has to now take that to Nishino. And if he says no, guess what? Too bad, too sad. So that is at least something good right there, at least in my personal opinion. But Herman Hulst has been doing two things, again, according to interviews and people who have been able to talk to people on the inside and everything like that. Number one is he was a big pusher of Concord, calling it the next Star Wars under Sony. A lot of people calling it his baby because of, again, all the toxic positivity that was reported on and everything. And then second, being a huge pusher of the Horizon franchise, which, don't get me wrong, Horizon's, it's a good game. I don't think it should be being pushed as much as it is right now, because there are, like, you look online especially, which I know is not the greatest place to look sometimes, but regardless, a lot of people look at that and go like, really? Another Horizon game? Like, it's fine. It's not a bad game by any means. And anyone who says it's an actual bad game, I don't think you've actually played a bad game in your life. So, just saying. But it is nowhere near, like, as popular as they claim it to be and everything like that. In fact, I believe even some higher manager people have come out and said, like, yeah, we expected Horizon to sell way better, and it didn't. So, that should be kind of telling you something right there. And now with a multiplayer game, which is, again, supposed to be looking very similar to a Monster Hunter, and apparently this MMO that's also being made. To be fair, though, the MMO is, I guess, being made in cooperation with a South Korean development team, if I'm correct on that. We'll post a thing up on the screen if you haven't seen it later on. But, so that's a lot of Horizon stuff right there. And it's just like, Herman, reel it back there, buddy. Good games, yes. As popular as you want it to be, I'm sorry, it's just not, unfortunately. So they've had good sales, don't get me wrong, but it is nowhere near, I think, the popularity that he thinks it is for some reason. And I don't know if this is because people are not willing to call him out on it and be like, guy, pump the brakes here. We need to get some other stuff out as well, because otherwise you're just going to be known as the Horizon person or the Horizon system for the PlayStation 5, essentially. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Horizon multiplayer game does make it out, because they have a lot of people working on it. I think current reports right now have over like 500 people working on that game. I could be completely wrong. Again, we'll see something up on screen if it is like that. But it is not a small team working on this multiplayer game, and it's rumored to be coming out this year. And I'm still surprised that they have the Fair Games $ live service game going through right now. I don't know if it's simply because they are trying to now play catch up with their single player stuff to get stuff, made and get ready to launch and everything. And so it's like, well, crap, we kind of have to keep some of these around. And so they looked at everything and said, okay, give me the top 3, and that could potentially do decently. Keep those going right now. Everything else get canceled, essentially. Hard to really say. But this is kind of the legacy, unfortunately, that Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst have now left players who are on the PlayStation platform and everything like that. And just FYI real quick, I know everyone loves to point at like Phil Spencer for being like a gamer, essentially, and how you could sit down and have a beer with him if you wanted to. I'm going to tell you guys right now, both of these guys, especially Hiroki Totoki, because he's a no shit numbers guy, essentially. But even Nishino, yes, he does come from the hardware side of things. So maybe we see something like, the Portal 2 or the Portal simply get a lot of updates and everything. Do we see an actual PlayStation handheld via Switch or Asus ROG or AGL, Ally or whatever they're called? Like, we could see something like that under him. It's hard to say. But regardless, these guys are not going to be like, oh yeah, we got a CEO now that's for the gamers. We're going to get everything. No. That's not happening with these guys. I'm just telling you right now. So keep that in mind.
Herman Hulst is the new Tetsuro Nomura. Absolute hack. Absolutely just ruining everything. That's my new thing now. I'm going to call him Nomura. Everything sounds kind of above board. Hulst is getting off easy, if you ask me. I think they really.
I'm surprised he's not fired, to be perfectly honest. Sorry, I had to drop that in there.
Sony is currently, you've seen the meme, the whole fuck around find out chart where the guy's like pointing out the graph. Mm-hmm. They're firmly in the find out. Yeah. They've been fucking around for a couple years, and now they're finding out. If it wasn't for Microsoft absolutely doing whatever the fuck they're doing right now, I think they would be in more dire straits. I think this would be another PS3 era Ken Kutaragi ego check kind of thing. I think but because Microsoft has been, in the nicest way of putting it, soul searching, trying to figure out what they're trying to do, because the last generation and a half, I'll call this currently a half, they have no idea what they're doing. But I think that's a whole discussion unto itself, and I don't want to go too much on a tangent. I think this is good what Sony's doing. I think Herman Hulst off easy. Yeah, I'm hoping this is a real course correction, because God knows the studios need the help. Naughty Dog is practically imploding from the outside looking in. I mean, Insomniac's doing great. Ted Price is stepping down, but hopefully, so far as the Marvel studio now, the games pretty much make themselves, so I don't think there are going to be too much issues there.
Santa Monica, we don't know anything about yet. So.
Yeah, well, the rumors now with that, they're going to make a God of War Egypt, which signed me the hell up.
Yeah, that definitely could be cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the God of War combat, especially the newer games. But again, that's all rumors right now. So until we see actual trailers and everything, like, I'm not going to dive too deep in the rumors and everything. The setting will be cool. Don't get me wrong. I don't know where it would take place, but
yeah. I mean, I'm glad steadier hands are taking the helm of Sony. But on the flip side, that also means I'm still not going to get the crazy kind of Sony we had in the PS3 era. We got a bunch of weird games. That's never going to come back. And Herman Hulst, despite him being so self-centered, for lack of a better phrase, just kind of driving things over, driving the car off a proverbial cliff. We might have seen more like Loco Roco type games. We're never going to see that now with the current management of Sony.
I do want to stop you real quickly. One thing I totally forgot to mention, you are absolutely correct on, is that with these guys coming into place now and where just PlayStation is in general, we as consumers should not be expecting a ton of new IPs or anything like that. Expect
Not all.
remakes, remasters,
Sequels.
sequels. That's all it's going to be, basically. All of your unique games and everything are going to come from like your second and third party deals, essentially. That and the indie scene. That's where they're coming.
Yeah.
First party stuff, I think, is going to be completely just what you would expect. Even looking at something like Naughty Dog, who is working on that 80s space game or whatever, like, don't expect it to be like something weird, wacky, absolutely crazy. Like, it's going to have the same feel of a Naughty Dog game. The story, obviously, we have no idea what the story's about or anything like that, aside from bounty hunters, apparently. But I would not expect big new IPs or anything like that, like we saw back in the days. Just don't expect it. I'm sorry. Anyway, let me continue. I needed to get that out.
I was gonna say, like, and to your point, I feel like they're gonna take the line of like EA or Take-Two. Very conservative, very safe.
Yep.
Sequels and remakes is what we're gonna be seeing from Sony probably the rest of this generation.
Oh, easily.
Which is a bummer. Like I said, like there's a lot of innovation back in the PS3, PSP days, like Loco Roco, when the Japan studios still existed, all those games. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just indicative of the industry we find ourselves in. You want to find anything unique, you have to go to indie games. AAA, even AA to an extent, has been pretty dry, boring, very conservative, and very scared to make any major, gambles.
I will say, and you are correct on that. I will say one thing though is that there are a lot of people over here in Japan, I should say, at least. Only from what I've been seeing in Japan right now, is that because Sony is elevating a lot of these like CEO positions and everything from people who are here in Japan, they're wondering if they're going to start trying to take a lot more of a focus on Japan to try and compete with people like Nintendo and everything, because maybe they don't see any competition from Microsoft. That's just something I wanted to throw in there because I've been seeing a lot of comments on that, especially over here on social media, which is, I guess, the upside of what I particularly see. So I don't know if that's going to be the case. Again, when we see something like, Sony handheld coming up, and it's just like, okay, is it going to be like a handheld via like Steam Deck Switch 2 style thing? Is it going to be more along the lines of the Portal still, but you're just improving your cloud gaming? Because I said this in one of our videos a couple of months ago, where I think that maybe instead of trying to do some big, huge handheld and everything, that the PlayStation Portal with the cloud gaming right now is a good way to introduce people into the PlayStation ecosystem who are newer gamers, because it's only like $200 to buy the handheld, and if the PlayStation cloud stuff continues to improve, then you get access to a lot of their first party games and everything like that. So will Nishino do that? I'm not really sure, but that is something to keep an eye on right there. I would personally say if they try to do that, or if the handheld rumor is still something to do, because they've said multiple times, even when all this news broke, is that consoles are still going to be one of their big focus points and everything like that. We know that they're going deep into PC and everything as well. In fact, they simply made, at least for their single player games, their PSN login requirement now is completely optional. I'm assuming that the online multiplayer games, they are not, or maybe that could change. I'm not really sure because they haven't released one. Helldivers is literally the only one right now. Concord, again, was taken offline completely, and everything else that they brought to PC has been single player. God of War, Spider-Man just released and everything. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen there. But it's definitely an interesting time for what we could be seeing there. But like we said beforehand, though, this is also a chance, I think, for a lot of gamers right now who want this big, unique stuff from Sony. Don't expect it. Start to expand your horizons now. Look, whether, again, it's at the AA or the second and third party partners that they are with, or the indie scene. Get used to playing. Check those games out. Check them out. And 9 times out of 10, guess what? They're not $70. They're $20, $30. Or if you wait for a sale, they're literally under $10 half the time for a lot of those games. And and here's another thing, and I've said this multiple times, and I know finances are hard for a lot of people, myself included and everything, which is why I can't just go out and buy every single game that I want and everything like that. But you want to see more unique games or particular styles of games from certain small teams and developers and everything, you have to buy those games. If you've seen an indie game come out that's $20, buy it. Do not do the, oh, I'll wait for Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. Buy the game, especially for those smaller teams and everything like that. That money goes directly to them and they can have more opportunities going forward into the future. Or for certain games that are made by much smaller teams, but they're under maybe a bigger umbrella and everything like that, when you buy those games, yes, the direct money that you are spending, it does not go to that individual developer. We all know this, or at least we should know this. It's going to go to the company. However, by buying that and supporting that particular type of game right there, because they see those stats and everything, they know where all that money goes in particular areas. It's not you buy a game and that somehow goes into their live service game or anything like that. They are going to see that and they're going to be like, oh, this particular game actually did well. We'll keep this team around. Now, does that happen 100% of the time? Obviously not. They're companies and all that stuff. We've talked about it multiple times here. But buying the games that are either made by small teams, again, whether they're under a big publisher or they're individually by their own, on their own and everything like that, buying the games is the best way to at least hope that either something's going to be improved upon for their next game. It could be a sequel to that smaller game, but then they vastly improve the mechanics of, gameplay, cinematics, etc. You name it. Simply waiting for streaming services or, again, PlayStation Plus or Xbox Game Pass and everything like that. That is not how you support them. Just saying. Lemon, I don't know if you agree with me on that, but that's where my
Game Pass all the way. No, you gotta throw money at the devs. I'm kind of surprised. I feel like you were leading right up. You were literally saying every point all the way up to just short of saying the developer's name and the game specifically. Y'all didn't buy enough goddamn Prince of Persia.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm going to go off on a tangent on that if I could, but I won't do it too bad for this video. It'll be a real quick one.
That's where you were going with that.
Editors, have some fun with this. I'm just saying this right now. Oh my gosh. And like you said, this encapsulates perfectly what I was just talking about. Even under a big publisher, aka Ubisoft, regardless of their troubled times, and I know people meme on them and people don't buy the games and everything like that, but you wanted, for those who kept saying, we want Prince of Persia, or we want these more unique games from Ubisoft. That was the game! Right there! Like, you look at reviews, you look at people who actually take a chance on it to play the game, because at first they're like, nah, I'm not really gonna play it, but then they buy it, and they play it, and they're like, holy crap, this game was good. Like, there's a reason that Prince of Persia was reviewed so well. It was like one of Ubisoft's highest reviewed games in the last, I think, 5 or 6 years. But yet, unfortunately, it flopped. And again, I know part of that is due to the whole, what Ubisoft brings, unfortunately, to the current table right now in terms of people saying, I'll give it a month, it'll be 50% off or whatever, right? Or, it's not this particular type of game, or it doesn't look like the Prince of Persia I knew. Like, 5 minutes of research. 5 minutes. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown was such an amazing game. And then they actually had story DLC that came out a few months later. And it was like $5 for it. And yeah, maybe, again, for maybe some people, maybe 50 at the particular moment was a little high. But I'm pretty sure it's like 15, $20 right now. Lemon, is that worth it for that game?
I mean, I think it was worth it for 50.
Yeah, same here.
So obviously 20 is even more worth it.
Exactly. Oh, I bought that game day one and I did not regret it at all.
I bought a physical.
Yeah, same.
It's a great
game.
game.
It's just like, bottom line, support the games by buying them and don't just go full into PlayStation Plus, which in my personal opinion is not even worth it. Game Pass, I can see parts of it being worth it, but you still need to buy some games. Otherwise, we're going to keep just getting what we've been getting, and people are going to be like, why isn't this happening, or why isn't this? And it's just like, this is why. Well, the wait and see what's going to happen with PlayStation. I'm interested to see what Nishino and Hiroki do, but prepare for some slow times going forward is all I'm going to say. And again, going off of something that we just said with Prince of Persia and everything, smaller games and everything like that, buying games like Astrobot, which are first party under PlayStation right now. Then the next game made by Asobi, the developers who made that game, which by the way was like a team under 100 and actually on a pretty good budget, buy those games. If you see a game that's like, oh, it's only 20 hours, but it's really super polished, or really good story, or good whatever type of game it's supposed to be, buy it. Don't be the, well, I don't get 100 hours out of my game, so guess what? It's not worth it. That's fine. But don't be surprised when we don't get more stuff like that. And we just get we get a bunch of slop that we've been getting for a while. It's just the reality of it. Keep that in mind next time you're trying to buy a game.